Yes, party people, where my killer tape at? Episode 42 of season 3. Yo, we back, man. Thank y'all for y'all patience, man. I know I was supposed to be back on the 20th, but here we are. We're gonna do this. We're gonna talk about a big issue that everybody's been fighting about over the summer online. We're gonna talk about child support. We're also gonna talk about how you can when you can delve into comics. We're gonna talk about the 20th anniversary of Blade. We're also gonna bring back segments of how to approach women and health. So we back. We're here to do our thing. Dizzle, ladies and gentlemen, where my killer tape at? Rock. Steady. Rock. Steady. Rock, rock, rock. Steady, 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 steady.
Gangsta, gangsta, gangsta.
For you profess it, make sure the science is applied. But that who, what, where, when. Sometimes
I pull up, hop out, air out, made it look sexy. They won't take me out my element. Nah, take me out my element.
For Where My Killer Tape At, episode 42, I am sipping, actually guzzling Blue Moon Mango Wheat Ale. Oh my God, this thing is good. And I think for a good summer ale, I wish I had found this one sooner. And Blue Moon makes some good Belgian white ales, by the way. But a good summer ale, if you want, will probably be this Mango Wheat Ale that they make. It's delicious. It goes down smooth, and they got a little kick in it. So, I know a lot of times you run into a lot of women who are not big on beers, and I always introduce them to ales, and it usually works. I think this one is perfect. It's not too sweet. It's just right. So that's what I'm doing for this podcast. Word!
Yeah. Yo, I think Chris should run first on this one. I think so. Yeah. Yo, I think Chris should run first on this one. I think so.
And as of this writing, about 2 days ago, we learned that it's the 20th anniversary of the movie Blade. Yep, yes sirree, Bob. It came out back in 1998. And we talked about this on the show. I'm trying to remember what episode it was. We talked about how influential Blade was, and Wesley Snipes, like really Wesley Snipes. And actually, I think in the episode that I'm referring to, and I'm going to try to figure it out which one it was, we learned some new things about how Marvel Entertainment Group back then, and they were called Marvel Entertainment Group back then, how they did Wesley Snipes, but it kind of actually worked out, right? Ultimately, right? But it's funny because people always say that Deadpool was the first rated R superhero movie, but that's actually false. Blade was the first rated R superhero movie. And here's the thing. Before that, Hollywood didn't really take superhero movies seriously. And you can just check those old Batman movies. Even the one they did with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Batman and Robin, all those that they had to find a different star, Michael Keaton and all of them. Like those, I hated those because they didn't take the superhero genre seriously. And it wasn't until Blade came out, where Blade 1 and 2, because I don't even fuck Blade 3, but Blade 1 and 2 really like set the tone. It was, rated R. And Blade was like I hate to be this way, he was like a fourth tier hero. He originally came out, I think it was in the 60s. And then he was brought back in the Spider-Man series. There was a TV show that came on, and he was brought back in there. So a lot of people was like, ooh, Blade, right? And then, it's funny because if you look at the Blade TV show, he's like lighter skinned than the original. But that's neither here nor there. And what happened is, what we learned now, we didn't know this back then, was we learned that Wesley Snipes was actually trying to get Black Panther. Back then, Marvel Entertainment Group was selling off movie rights to the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and Spider-Man. And originally what they wanted to do was, since Spider-Man, Sony was interested in Spider-Man, Marvel was actually trying to sell literally the Avengers and Black Panther to Sony. But Sony just wanted Spider-Man, so they just took Spider-Man. They wanted to actually sell Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, and T'Challa, Black Panther. But that deal fell through. At the same time, Wesley Snipes wanted Black Panther, but Marvel was kind of like holding him off. They was like, oh, we'll think about it. We'll think about it. And they offered him Blade. So he took Blade, which he actually didn't know anything about. And a lot of people didn't know anything about. So I'm not knocking Wesley Snipes. And he created Blade 1, which was actually really dope. And what was cool was that Wesley Snipes took a lot of liberties with the origin story, which a lot of people do anyway. But he really made it palpable to movie audiences, particularly since it's like a fourth tier hero. Anyway, if you read Stan Lee's autobiography, he talked about how Blade really saved Marvel Entertainment Group from going, it was already going through bankruptcy, but he really pulled them out of the water. And he gave him props for that. So Wesley Snipes, pretty much, we would not have the Marvel Cinematic Universe without Wesley Snipes and Amin Ra films. So we definitely got to give him a shout out for that. Big time. There has been talks about Blade returning to the MCU, but a lot of it is just rumors. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. But I know it's the 20th anniversary. Blade 1 and Blade 2 are really dope. Highly recommended. But Blade 1 really took things to the next level. The fighting was great. There's even capoeira in it. I mean, I can go on and on. They even had a black women lead. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's rare, right? So I definitely recommend you checking that out. Sanaa Lathan is in it too. He plays his mom. And if you haven't, and come on, don't let these folks rewrite history. Blade was the first rated R superhero movie. We've gone over this. So I'm going to post in the show notes the article that kind of talks about that. Enjoy it. As of this recording, we all know that the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, has passed away. And what more can be said? Like, who can really do a fitting tribute? Like, it's crazy because everybody's online talking about who should be singing at her tribute show or whatever. And let me just say this, man, I stay out of those arguments because, you know what I mean? Like, that's really subjective, like who should be singing. Especially with the fact that a lot of like great artists that she influenced have passed away. Like, for example, like Whitney Houston would come to mind automatically. Boom. Like Whitney Houston should be singing at her tribute. But she passed away. But that being said, man, when you think of the title diva, you know what I mean? Like, that's who you think of. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I think of diva, I automatically think of Aretha Franklin. She is truly, like, there's some things in life that are like fact that no one will argue with you about. You're across the board. You know what I'm saying? The sun gonna come up, the sky is blue. Like, no one's gonna argue with you about that, right? And she is definitely the Queen of Soul. Definitely. Wow. It's like there's a lot of artists that were influenced by her. And let me just say this for artists. For an R&B singer who came up in the 60s and 70s, it was a racist and sexist industry, which still is a racist and sexist industry. But back then it was even worse, right? Artists were getting jerked left and right, like today, right? It's kind of crazy, right? But she was really able to make her own sound, really put out her own product, her own material, shaped her image. Like, that was like really her, really in control. And I think that was dope for somebody to do that back then. We see more and more artists doing it now because more and more artists are more savvier. They hire savvier people. They just make smarter moves because of the moves that other artists made before them. You know what I'm saying? So, like, really, man, like, wow. Like, I can go on and on about how dope she was. I remember I was reading an article. I didn't know that at one time she post bail for Angela Davis. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, and it's funny because you find out about these things when an artist passes away. That's the part that sucks, right? But shout out to her. Her legacy will live on. There's several artists that really, to be honest, like she influenced a lot of artists that influence artists of today. You feel me? So if she never existed, the landscape of music would probably be tremendously different than what we know now. For real. Word.
Lord of mercy, all night Sunday sun crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night Sunday sun crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night Sunday sun crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night Sunday sun crew. Follow me now.
I get asked this question a lot. I run a comic book club, and I used to do a lot of comic book reviews. I haven't done one in a while, and people ask my opinion on comics, so I don't mind giving it to them. But one question I get asked often is, when should I get into comics? Like what era? And then they ask me, how do I do it? That's two good questions, right? So I know I said one, right? The first one I say is now is a good time to get into comic books. Why? There's so many different ways you can get into comics, right? There's like a billion ways. It's not a billion ways, I'm just saying. So for example, single issues, I'm a single issue buyer. I still go down to the comic shop. I still go and hang out with people and argue and debate who could be who's the better writer, which is the best comic to read right now. I still go and do that. That's something that I do, and I probably continue to do until I can't do it anymore, right? So, but let me just say this though: single issues are expensive. They're very, 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 very expensive. I know for like Image and DC, they can run you between $2.99 and $3.50 per comic, right? So if you're buying 6 or 7 comics a week, that kind of adds up. Yes, I remember the days when they cost 60 cents. I am old, right? Marvel comics, and I'm a Marvel guy now. I'm a Marvel guy. I'm not really a DC guy. I love Image, but Marvel is where I always go to, right? Marvel is going to cost you $3.99 up to $4.99 in some cases, particularly the #1 issues. They're usually like $4.99. I mean, heck, they were selling Spider-Man issue 700. They were selling that for $8.99, I believe, or $9.99. So right there is going to cost you a grip if you're doing single issues. So I just started getting into trades. I know I should have been doing it a long time ago. Many people that collect comic books that I know, they just said, I'm not doing single issues no more. I'm going by trades. And they do that. They buy trades, which a trade, or what we call a trade paperback, we just call them trades. They usually have two story arcs, and the story arcs is between 1 to 3 issues or 1 to 4 issues, and it's usually a story that begins and ends, and then they start a new one. So they usually wait till they publish a trade until there's like 2 story arcs. So you have about 6 to 7 issues per trade. So if you do the math, and like for example, Marvel sells their trades at $14.99. You kind of like save a little bit of money. Image sells theirs for $9.99. Stay away from the hard copies, the hardbacks, because the hardbacks they cost more. But people are going for trades, and that's probably why a lot of comics have there was a time when you would buy a particular comic and the shelf life that would increase the value of it depending on the condition of the comic. That's one of the reasons why it doesn't do that anymore so much, because you have the trade paperbacks. That being said, that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to digital, get a digital account. I know one that I use a lot is Comixology, and that's because a lot of stuff on there is cheap, with the exception of like Marvel. Marvel for some reason sells everything full price on digital, as is DC, and Image as well. So, but what happens is they have a lot of fire sales. So you always check their fire sales. They have holiday sales, so you can get a lot of stuff for free. I know Marvel has a subscription, and I think now it's $14.99, where you pay $14.99 a month and you get all the old stuff. You get all the old stuff all the way to the 60s, and I think that's actually a good idea too. I don't know if DC has one. You could also have subscriptions. I know a good place a lot of people go to, a good friend of mine goes to, is DCBS.com, discount comic book services, and they're not paying me. And they sell, you can like pre-order comics before they come out, and you get them for like 50 to 60% off. So you can get comics for like $2 each. It's a good site. I go there for back issues, to buy back issues, and I usually get them real cheap there. I get them, sometimes I get issues for like 20 cents on there, some back issues. So I like that, going there. And then for trades, the thing about trades is that you can either go to Amazon and get them cheap. Everything on Amazon is cheaper. Or you can go to like this, all the big bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, they'll have like sales on them. I found trades for like $5, but one place you can go to that I use all the time is In Stock Trades, and it's spelled just like how I pronounced it, INSTOCK Trades. And you can get your trades there for 50% off, man. I've gotten stuff there for like $4 because they had like a scratch in the back, because trades, they don't increase in value, so it's okay if you have a slash in the back of it. Other than that, I hope that helps you. Now here's the question. Now, what should I read? It all depends on what you're into, and the reason why I say now is the best time to get into it is because there's so many genres. Oh my God, if you like the superhero cosmic stuff, then yeah, you can get into that. But if you like, you know, for example, like Ed Brubaker, he makes this series called Criminal, and he has like a lot of spin-offs, and that's like non-superhero stuff, and that's great. Those he wins all kinds of awards for that. Here's an example. If you're a foodie, you can read this one book called Chew, it's by Image Comics. Wonderful story about this detective who he can taste something and he can like learn the history of it. So he can taste like a fish and he can tell you who actually fished it, what seas it came from, how it was transported here, etc., etc. It's pretty dope stuff. So it depends on what you're into. I recommend, like, what I tell people is, to find out, two things. I find out what genre you into, you know. You into mystery, you into sci-fi, you into magic, you know, you can figure it out from there. Or you can go to your local library and you can ask a librarian. Yes, I said that. They usually direct you to the Eisner Award-winning stuff. And Eisner Awards were based off of this one cartoonist and comic book writer named Will Eisner. And they're kind of like the Academy Awards of comic books. Like, if you win one, it's a big deal. I actually happen to know a couple. So it's a huge deal. Every time I see them, I'm like, oh my God, you're an Eisner Award winner and you're sitting in my living room, right? So, like, they are usually pretty good. A lot of them are, so a lot of times they get awarded to non-superhero writers and stories, but you will not be disappointed. I have yet to read an Eisner Award-winning comic that I was like, oh, this sucks. So I hope this little thing helps you out. If you have more questions, hit me up on my DMs on Twitter that I'm going to put at the end of the show. Word.
The name of the game is Life Works. Night of the Slips. The name of the game is Life Works.
I don't know how I missed this, but I stumbled upon it on Apple Podcasts. I think it's an amazing podcast series. It's put together by WNYC out of New York City, of course. And it's called The Realness. It's about 6 episodes, and they have like an extra episode that features Roxanne Shante. Anyway, it's about, I didn't mean to even say it like that, because Roxanne Shante's episode is just freaking amazing. But it's based on a story of Prodigy from the group Mobb Deep. Again, it kind of reminds me of The Mogul. It doesn't have the same production quality as The Mogul, but it's up there. It better win an award. I mean, it has to win an award. Anyway, it's about Prodigy. Talks about his life. It starts off with his death. Then it gets into his life growing up with sickle cell. I love the fact that they spend large amount of time talking about sickle cell anemia, which affects black folks in America. And I think, man, it's just amazing. I just love stories like this because they bring in a lot of history when it comes to discussions of celebrities, right? So it's really dope. Go to Apple Podcasts, WNYC. They're not paying me for this, but it's really dope. Highly recommended. If you're a Mobb Deep fan, you'll love it. If you have, a child or you suffer from sickle cell anemia, this one's for you. But also, it's good to get educated on sickle cell anemia and how, the Nixon administration and also how the Black Panther Party had a major influence on that policy that Nixon did back in the 70s. So you heard it from me. Again, I stumbled upon it. Check it out, The Realness, WNYC. Word.
It's all a game. It's all a game.
So now we're going to talk about child support beef. Yeah, it's crazy because online, child support is such an issue of contention. What's up, party people? And I kind of figured out why it is. One of it has to do with the fact that, to be honest, a lot of us come from single parent homes, right? So, when we talk about child support, the issue of deadbeat dads usually comes up. And let's be real, man. A lot of us had some deadbeat dads, man. I'll be the first to admit it. My father was a deadbeat. And I think for a lot of us, we want to try to, even protect those men in our lives who actually were deadbeats. And I see it happen all the time. Trust me. I see it happen all the time. And a lot of times we end up blaming, moms for something that really dad did. So on one hand, you have, people that they came up and their fathers are deadbeats. And then there's a lot of dudes out there that are deadbeats. There's a lot of guys out there that are making these arguments, right? About people that they don't even know. And they are also deadbeats. That's crazy, right? And I wish I wish more of us are more forthcoming with that. So I think that's why when you see this discussion of child support, there's always two sides. One that's for it, and it's usually women that are for it, and then the side that are against it, and it's usually men. Now we got to get deep into this discussion, right? Because check this out. Studies have shown that even in marriages, right, women do most of the child rearing, and let's be real, party people, we don't value child rearing. We do not value it. If you a single mom, we ain't got no love for you, no respect for you. We don't give a fuck. That's pretty much how it is. We just don't value how women, what women do to raise our babies. That's fact. That is fact. And anybody that wants to argue it, hey, let's argue it. Let's do that. But we don't really care about that. So really the heart of the problem is that we don't value that part. We don't value the women that do that for us. And I think it's a shame. So what do you think, Dan Trezzomi? Do you think child support should be a thing? Hell yes. Look, I'm married, got 4 babies, and let me tell you something. Babies are expensive. It's funny because I see like a lot of my friends, they always traveling and everything, they doing their thing. And when I look at their lifestyle, I be like, man, they ain't got babies. You know what I'm saying? So when you don't have babies, you can deal with those added expenses. You have disposable income. And look, I love being a parent. I love my babies to life. To be honest, I don't even think I deserve my babies because they're so freaking awesome. I love them. Anybody will tell you, I love babies. I love children. The energy and everything, I could go on and on, but they're expensive, man. So do I believe that, let's say, for example, you're paying $800 a month and your baby mama calls you and say, hey, he needs some new sneakers. Should you pay them? Yes, you should, because, they're expensive. You know what I mean? And really, when you look at the grand scheme of things, this is how they look at it. Actually, this is how they look at it. This is how I want you to look at it. So, for example, if your babies live with you, right, and both of y'all live together, mom and dad, or whatever, right, you be paying those same expenses, right? That $800 that you paying for child support is really going to the household stuff, right? And then when you look at it, right, your child, especially when the new school year starts, right? Let me tell you, you're gonna be spending thousands of dollars. So you're gonna be buying them sneakers, right? If they just like they lived with you. So you gotta look at it. Now you have 2 separate households, and she got expenses and you got expenses. And she's the custodial parent though. So she actually has more expenses because the baby lives with her. You feel me? And the baby doesn't live with you. But if the baby lived with you and she did as well, you'll be paying that extra mouth to feed. And it just makes perfect economic sense.
Since when did black men become kings?
You have no idea, the meaning to what I say. And you have no idea how I got this way. Now hear my dream, and by the time you wake, I'll look down from the clouds, see I'm on my way.
Now let's talk about, what's custodial and what's non-custodial. Custodial parent is the parent that actually, the child lives with that parent, right? So if you get with a woman and she gets pregnant and y'all split up, then she's going to automatically keep the baby. The courts always do this, and it's not because the courts are like, we're just more mom-centered. Trust me, they're not, right? It's just because they've learned throughout history, because there was a time when a man and a woman got divorced. These things were created for married people. They weren't created for people who are not married, right? Let's just point that out. They're more marriage centric, right? They want to give privileges to people that are married. We see that across the board. So when somebody was married and they broke up, initially, back in the day in the United States, the child went to the dad. But what they learned was the dad would either abandon the children, send it back to the moms, or have his mother take care of it. So grandmother will be raising it. So the courts realized very early that dads were just incapable of raising their children. It's not because men are inherently incapable. It's just that most of us refuse to do the work. So let's just be real. And that's why in most cases, women do most of the child rearing. So let's just keep that real for a fact, right? So So that's what the courts usually did. What's happening is that nowadays you see more and more people, more and more people who are not married having children. So the laws really don't apply in that aspect. So they just apply the original ones, the ones that are made for married people, to that. So if I get a young woman pregnant and we're not together, we split, they automatically make her the custodial parent, unless I go to court and say, hey, I want to be the custodial parent, or we want to have joint custody. And that's another thing. You hear all these guys talk all this mess. Well, if you don't want to pay child support, then get custody of the child, right? And they refuse to do that too. Why? Once again, most men refuse to do the work. So, people are always going to say, oh, but there's single dads out there. We're not talking about single dads, right? But if you are a single dad and you are the custodial parent, then you should get child support from the mom. I believe that sincerely, both ways, because, again, you're eating up all those expenses. So, let's try not to mince words here. Let's try not to, beat around the bush, but that's really where it comes from. Finally, you hear all these stories about how, my baby mom just want to give revenge back to me because I'm not with her no more. Bruh, shut up with that. For real. And I'm going to break it down to you. Right? We always complain about women who, quote unquote, trap men or whatever. I don't know how you trap them. It takes two people to have sex, right? Y'all, you didn't wear the condom, bruh. So come on, right? And birth control pills don't always work. But that's neither here nor there, right? Here's the wild part. Here's the part that's blown. And what I want you to do is, if you ever in a room full of women that have kids, you know what? Do this. Go to the school that's closest to you, right? Go to a parent meeting, right? And I want you to go in there and you're going to see mostly women, right? And what I want you to do is, I want you to ask how many of them are not with their fathers, right? Not with the fathers of the children, And then ask how many of them actually get child support. And you will be surprised that from my experience, most women who have children from other men that they're not together with, they don't get child support. Whether it's they never filed for it or the father refuses to pay. But man, shoot, if I had a nickel for every woman that told me that, I was shocked, that was like, hey, I don't get child support, it'll blow your mind. So like, when we talk about child support, let's talk. Let's really talk. Okay, are there some states that have some harsh laws against people that don't pay child support or fall behind? Yes, we do. But we're not talking about that, right? We can talk about that, right? We can talk about how, certain states, because of the racism, they disproportionately send black men to prison because of it. True indeed, right? And that's a different issue when we talk about the prison industrial complex that's connected to the child support issue. But let's not sit here and act like child support is not something that's needed. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, party people. And fellas, step up, man. Come on, man. This stuff is childish, man. We're not in high school no more. Step up. Word. For this health segment, we're going to talk about maintaining, right? Because a lot of us set goals for the summer, the spring and the summer, to get those beach bodies, to lose a little bit of weight, to look a little bit nicer in our clothes, especially since we show a little bit more skin than we usually do. I always tell people that, number one, you already got a beach body. But I think what I try to tell a lot of people that I train with is maintaining that level of activity. That's probably the hardest thing, right? And we all know that people that lose weight, they usually gain it back. 90% of the people who lose weight usually gain it back 6 months to a year after they lost it all. So, and it's because they hit those goals and then they're like, I'm done. But you should continue to maintain, you should continue to work out. What I tell people to do is to set smaller goals, nothing crazy, but something that kind of forces you to maintain that particular lifestyle, right? Because the key is creating healthy habits, creating and maintaining a lifestyle which allows you to stay healthy. And I'm not the type of person that says that weight is the goal. You know what I mean? Because weight is just a number. You know what I'm saying? You could be 200 pounds and be muscle, so you really got to get outside of this idea that weight kind of determines our health, and it doesn't. But what I really want people to do is to maintain a particular lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle. So what I always, I keep saying that, right? So what you should do is, here, for example, when I first moved to Ohio, since I was, I didn't know a lot of people at the time, I decided, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run 5Ks. I'm going to run a series of 5Ks. And, they have 5Ks everywhere. They're usually between $25 to $35. I recommend them because you don't really have to go out there and win them. You just got to complete them. And they're real fun, and you're with a lot of people having a good time. Some of them will give you I've seen some where you pay, $35 and they give you brunch, a nice little brunch. And some of them, they're in the evening, they'll have you pay $35 and they give you food and beer. So they're really fun, and a lot of them are good for, raising money for different causes. I used to do one for this one kid who had type 2 diabetes every year, and it was really cool. So it was just fun, so I got here, I used to just do 5Ks. But to do those 5Ks, I had to kind of maintain a particular, set other goals. So I was riding my bike more. And Ohio has great bike trails. So just things like that, because knowing that I had to do those things, they weren't competitive, but they were cool. I know my cousins, shout out to my cousins. Y'all know who y'all are, over in Jersey City. They do Spartan races. They do 3 or 4 a year. They do them together. Now they even got their son doing them, because they have Spartan junior races alongside the adults. So I think that's dope, because for them to be able to do those things, they have to kind of train throughout the year. And I think that kind of is a good, dope goal. So there's a lot of fun ways of doing these things. That's just, I know the 5K running is for some people might be crazy, because I know really, to be honest, if I didn't have people with me, I probably wouldn't be running them. But I tell people to try to and I don't run like I used to. I used to run them all the time. I don't run them like I used to. So, but it's just an idea that I'm trying to give people so that you can kind of sit down and say, hey, I want to do these goals. And then again, it's strength in numbers. So the key is maintaining that healthy lifestyle, because if you can maintain that healthy lifestyle, it would, keeping the weight off, staying healthy, being in shape, that's going to be something that, you can continue to do while having a good time. Word.
This is a man's world, but it would be nothing without.
Part 3C, sip lime Bacardi, heavy on the list. You blink my ice ring, John Green, yeah, that's small COD, part 3, 3C, sip lime Bacardi.
Yo, in this segment of how to approach women, my man, he don't want me to mention his name. He asked me actually 2 weeks before my last 2 episodes for season 2. So I didn't have time to put it in there, and it's kind of late in the game, but you got, what is it? Is it a Memorial Day coming up? So he asked me, how do you approach women at a barbecue? And I was like, yo, that's a good question, man, because to me, when you go to a barbecue, it's a different dynamic than when you go out in public, because you usually know some of the people there and everybody's connected to one another. You feel me? So I think it's the ideal situation, because, you kind of can feel who's down with who. You can kind of do a little bit of investigation. So just like any situation, you got to shoot your shot. So it's a smaller setting. More people are paying attention to you. So you got to kind of really, really watch what you say. I think it's good. I think it's good practice, to be honest, because everybody's going to hear what you say. So if your game is whack, they're going to pretty much know that you whack. So this is where it goes back to I think it was episode 2 or 3 where we talked about being a good conversationalist, because you should be able to go anywhere and hold the dope conversation with a bunch of people, and they be like, yo, this dude know what he's talking about. And I think this is the crucial part, is just overall, even if you're not trying to holler, you should just be a good conversationalist, period, outside of sports or whatever. So that being said, I like the barbecue setting, because let's say, for example, you get invited, your homie from college invites you to a barbecue, or your coworker invites you to a barbecue. You go kind of know a good portion of the people there, depending on how your coworker or your friend gets down, right? So you go in there, and you're gonna know some of the people, and depending on what kind of city you live in. I live in a small city, so people kind of know each other a little bit. So you're gonna run into people you know anyway, and kind of but if you're in a big city, you probably won't know people. You might know 1 or 2 people because that person invited you with someone else you know. So again, she walks in and she has a crew, again, this all goes back to what I was saying about being a conversationalist. You should be able to handle that. If you've been paying attention to how to approach women, where my killer tape at, and you've been putting this stuff into practice, you should be a pro now, right? 42nd episode, party people. So, but my thing is, you can do some reconnaissance. You can find out. Your man invites you in there. You can say, she's spoken for because she might have a man, and she might not be there with her man, or she might be married or whatever, and she's not there with her husband. So he'll probably be able to tell you, like, yo, I know her from this, and that, or that's my homegirl's friend, So you kind of figure out from there, and then you can shoot your shot from there and know everything is safe and clear. So I think it's an ideal way to get your practice on. So again, shoot your shot. Number 2, be a conversationalist, know what you're talking about, and you should be able to do that in any setting. So I hope that helps you, my man. You want me to mention your name. Still love you, though. Peace. Man, I definitely got to talk about this. I didn't know, but now I know. 20th anniversary of Cowboy Bebop. A lot of 20th anniversaries, man. First of all, that just demonstrates that I'm old. But anyway, 20th anniversary of Cowboy Bebop, which to me, in my opinion, and I will fight you in the street, Cowboy Bebop is the best anime ever of all times. And it's not just because they focus on bebop jazz, right? Because that's dope right there in and of itself. But just to let y'all know that we're gonna celebrate it. We're gonna get together and celebrate it. Shout out to the Midwest Black Speculative Fiction Alliance, Word is Born, because they're gonna have an event. They're gonna have a jazz concert to celebrate that at Rithrow High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. There's gonna be jazz artists from Cincinnati, from Columbus, from Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, shout out, big up, big up, big up, big up, big up, big up, big up. So definitely come through. What I'm gonna do in the show notes is I'm gonna put in the link where you can pay for the tickets if you can make it, and I'm also going to put the link to the organization Midwest Black Speculative Fiction Alliance. Also, her Royal Airship Ashanti, which is a steampunk organization, and the benefits go to Melodic Connections, an organization dedicated to teaching people with special needs through the power of music. So not only do you get a chance to celebrate with all of us, you're also going to get a chance to promote something that's really dope and focuses on our local community. So, come through. I'm going to be there. I'm probably bring one of my sons with me. We're going to act a fool. My man's going to be out there too, so we definitely going to check out for him. But please come through. Again, check the show notes for that information. Shout out to Cowboy Bebop. We love you. Before I end with episode 42, shout outs, man. Definitely want to dedicate this episode to the homie Tyrone Muhammad. Yo, man, your love will be missed. Your smile, your enthusiasm, your positivity, all of that, man, is that energy will surely be missed, man. We love you. We will never forget you. You treated me with mad love since I got here. Your smile was infectious, and you just mad positivity. I'm going to miss you, man. Word. Definitely want to give a shout out to the homie Sean Shot. Yo, keep doing your thing with the photography, man. And yo, thank you for the microphone. This episode right here, episode 42 of Where My Killer Tape At, half of it was done through the microphone that the brother gave me. I appreciate it, and the gift will be used. And also want to shout out to the Midwest Black Speculative Fiction Alliance, Word is Born. I know that's a mouthful, but yo, y'all dope, man. We love y'all. We see you. We salute you. Word is born. And there you have it, party people. Episode 43. Thank you very much, man, for coming back to us for season 3. It's going to be live. Again, if you want to continue discussion, you can use the hashtag Where My Killer Tape At. Killer spelled Killa. You could also hit me up on the Twitters. My regular Twitter that I'm always on is my old one, which is Dan Tres Omi. and that's DANTRESOMI. Also, you can follow me on Omi's Podcast at Omi's Podcast, OMIS Podcast. And if you have any suggestions, any questions, you can definitely DM me there as well. Also, I'm available for lectures and panel discussions, and I prefer to do workshops. Whether you want to do me doing workshops on hip hop culture, on feminism, being a black male, and also being a feminist. I also talk about intersectionality, and I talk about social justice. I did co-create a curriculum on it, so I'm kind of like an expert on it. So, you can hit me up at my Gmail, dantresomi@gmail. Again, DANTRESOMI. My rates are reasonable, and, we can talk. We can negotiate, because, I do this work. I got to be paid for it. So there you have it, party people. Again, I know we talked about the episodes, how we're going to go back to the original, just going to say episode 43. I'm not going to say season 2, episode 1. So just going to go right back to that. I apologize for any mix up on that. Thank you once again. I love all of y'all. I really appreciate the support. I still have merch coming up, merch or merc. So got that coming up. So thank y'all, party people. Love you. Peace.
It's time